The midday sun beat down on Ibadan, casting long shadows across the dusty compound. Children shrieked with laughter as they played tag, their voices a vibrant counterpoint to the rhythmic chatter of the market vendors. In one of the modest houses, Mrs. Adebayo, a vibrant woman with a head wrap of vibrant Ankara fabric, meticulously sorted her wares for the afternoon market. Her daughter, Adeola, sat at the kitchen table, her brow furrowed in concentration as she tackled a challenging math problem. Across the narrow alleyway, Mrs. Ojo, with her warm smile and gentle demeanor, was preparing lunch for her son, Tope. Tope, a whirlwind of energy, bounced off the walls, impatient for the meal to be ready. "Mama, are we going to the park later?" he pleaded, his eyes wide with anticipation. Mrs. Ojo chuckled. "Maybe, after you finish your lunch," she said, her voice soothing. Life in the compound flowed in this gentle rhythm, a tapestry woven with the threads of everyday life, laughter, the scent of spices, the occasional squabble between children. The two families, though different in their approach to parenting, shared a deep bond, their lives intertwined like the roots of the ancient baobab tree that cast a benevolent shadow over the compound. One afternoon, while playing hide-and-seek, Tope stumbled upon an unexpected treasure. Hidden amongst the overgrown weeds behind Mrs. Adebayo's house, he discovered an old, battered smartphone. It was covered in dust and grime, the screen cracked in several places. Curiosity piqued, Tope carefully picked it up. To his surprise, the phone still turned on. He rushed back to his house, his heart pounding with excitement. "Adeola! Look what I found," he exclaimed, thrusting the phone into her hands. Adeola, initially skeptical, examined the device with growing interest. "It's an old phone, Tope. Do you think it even works?" Tope, ever the optimist, plugged the charger into the wall. To their astonishment, the phone showed signs of life, a faint green light flickered on the screen. With trembling hands, they managed to turn it on. The screen, though cracked, displayed a faded logo and a surprisingly vibrant wallpaper of a tropical beach. "It works!" Adeola cried, her eyes wide with wonder. From that moment on, the old smartphone became their obsession. They spent hours tinkering with it, trying to figure out how to use it. They discovered a few simple games, preloaded onto the phone, and spent countless hours challenging each other to high scores. They also found a basic music player and filled it with catchy tunes, dancing around the room, their laughter echoing through the compound. Initially, the smartphone was just a source of entertainment. But as they explored further, they stumbled upon something extraordinary, the internet. At first, it was overwhelming. A dizzying array of colors, flashing banners, and endless scrolling text bombarded their senses. They clicked on random links, bewildered by the sheer volume of information. But slowly, they began to navigate this new world. They discovered YouTube, mesmerized by the endless stream of funny animal videos, captivating music videos, and informative documentaries. They learned about different cultures, marveling at the diversity of the human experience. They even attempted to video chat with people from other countries, their initial excitement quickly replaced by frustration as they struggled with the unfamiliar technology. The internet opened up a world of possibilities, a universe of knowledge and entertainment waiting to be explored. Adeola, always the curious one, was particularly fascinated by the vast ocean of information. She spent hours researching different topics, from the history of ancient civilizations to the mysteries of the deep sea. Tope, ever the adventurer, was drawn to the more interactive aspects of the online world, playing online games and engaging in virtual communities. Their initial curiosity quickly transformed into a deep fascination. They spent increasing amounts of time online, neglecting their studies, their once vibrant friendships starting to fade. Adeola, once a bright student, started to get poor grades. Tope, once a whirlwind of energy, became withdrawn and secretive, spending hours glued to the screen, his once bright eyes now glazed over. Mrs. Adebayo and Mrs. Ojo noticed the change. Adeola, once a model student, was now struggling to keep up in school. Her once cheerful demeanor was replaced by a distracted air, her mind seemingly elsewhere. Taupe, once a bundle of joy, became increasingly withdrawn, spending most of his time in his room, the faint glow of the smartphone screen illuminating his face. Concerned, the mothers decided to investigate. One evening, while Taupe was out playing, Mrs. Ojo quietly slipped into his room. She noticed the old smartphone lying on his bed, the screen glowing with an unfamiliar website. Curiosity piqued, she cautiously picked up the phone. The browsing history was a revelation. It was filled with terms that Mrs. Ojo didn't understand: cybersecurity, phishing, hacking. There were links to forums discussing complex coding languages and tutorials on how to manipulate digital systems. Mrs. Ojo's heart sank. What had she allowed into her son's life? The next morning, Mrs. Ojo met with Mrs. Adebayo. "Adeola has been acting strange lately," she said, her voice grave. "She's been neglecting her studies, and she seems to be living in a different world." Mrs. Adebayo nodded. "Taupe too. He's become so withdrawn. I've tried talking to him, but he just shrugs me off." Mrs. Ojo showed Mrs. Adebayo what she had discovered on Taupe's phone. Mrs. Adebayo's eyes widened in alarm. "Hacking? What is this?" Mrs. Ojo shook her head, feeling a wave of unease wash over her. "I don't know, but it doesn't seem right." They decided to confront their children. That evening, they gathered in the living room, their faces grave. Adeola and Taupe sat opposite them, their eyes fixed on the floor. "We've noticed some changes in you both lately," Mrs. Adebayo began, her voice firm but gentle. "Your grades have slipped, and you seem to be spending a lot of time alone." Taupe shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Adeola remained silent, her eyes glued to her hands. "We found this," Mrs. Ojo said, holding up the smartphone. "And we saw some things that concerned us." Adeola and Taupe exchanged a nervous glance. They knew they couldn't hide the truth any longer. "We were just curious," Adeola mumbled, her voice barely audible. "We found some interesting things online." "Like what?" Mrs. Adebayo pressed. Taupe, emboldened by Adeola's confession, began to explain. He talked about the websites they had visited, the coding tutorials they had watched, the thrill of exploring the hidden depths of the digital world. He spoke of a sense of power, a feeling of being able to control the unseen forces that governed the online world. As they listened, a chilling realization dawned upon the mothers. Their children, driven by curiosity and a desire to understand, had been venturing into dangerous territory. They had been exploring the dark underbelly of the internet, a world of shadows where information could be manipulated, systems could be compromised, and identities could be stolen. The following days were filled with anxiety and uncertainty. Mrs. Adebayo and Mrs. Ojo did their best to understand the extent of their children's online activities. They spent hours researching the dangers of the internet, learning about cyberbullying, online predators, and the potential consequences of their children's actions. They discovered a world they barely understood, a world of viruses, malware, and dark web marketplaces. They learned about the potential for identity theft, financial fraud, and even cyber terrorism. The more they learned, the more their fear grew. They tried to talk to their children, to explain the dangers they had stumbled upon. "You don't understand," Mrs. Adebayo warned, her voice trembling. "These things can have serious consequences. You could get into trouble with the law. You could even harm innocent people." But Adeola and Taupe were dismissive. "We haven't done anything wrong," Adeola argued. "We were just learning." "Learning what?" Mrs. Ojo countered. "How to break into computers. How to steal people's information." The arguments continued for days, leaving a trail of hurt feelings and unspoken fears. Adeola and Taupe felt misunderstood, their parents' concerns dismissed as exaggerated worries. They resented the restrictions placed upon them, the constant monitoring of their online activity. One evening, while watching the news, they stumbled upon a report about a major cyber attack that had crippled a local hospital. The report detailed how hackers had gained access to the hospital's computer systems, disrupting critical services and endangering patients' lives. The news report had a profound impact on Adeola and Taupe. For the first time, they saw the real-world consequences of their actions. They realized that their seemingly harmless explorations could have serious and far-reaching implications. Deeply shaken by the news report, Adeola and Taupe realized the gravity of their situation. The seemingly harmless explorations they had embarked upon could have serious and far-reaching consequences. They had been playing with fire, unaware of the potential for devastation. A sense of guilt and fear washed over them. They had been so consumed by their curiosity, so driven by the thrill of discovery, that they had failed to consider the ethical implications of their actions. They had been walking a fine line, flirting with danger without fully understanding the potential consequences. The incident served as a wake-up call. They understood that their parents' concerns were not unfounded. They had been playing with powerful tools that could be used for both good and evil. Feeling remorseful and confused, they decided to seek help. They approached their mothers, their voices trembling. "We understand now," Adeola confessed, her eyes filled with regret. "We were wrong. We were playing with things we didn't fully understand." Taupe nodded in agreement. "We're sorry. We won't do it again." Mrs. Adebayo and Mrs. Ojo, surprised by their children's sincerity, felt a surge of relief. They realized that their children, despite their initial resistance, were capable of introspection and remorse. "We're glad you understand," Mrs. Adebayo said, her voice gentle. "But we need to make sure this doesn't happen again." They decided to seek professional help. They contacted a renowned technology expert, Mr. Babatunde, a seasoned IT professional with a reputation for ethical hacking and cybersecurity education. Mr. Babatunde, a kind and patient man, patiently listened to their concerns. He explained the complexities of the digital world, the dangers of the dark web, and the importance of ethical hacking. He emphasized the importance of using their skills for good, for protecting systems and combating cybercrime. He also guided them on how to use the internet safely and responsibly. He taught them about online security best practices, strong passwords, two-factor authentication, and the dangers of phishing scams. He explained the importance of critical thinking and evaluating information online, warning them about the spread of misinformation and the dangers of online predators. Mr. Babatunde also introduced them to the concept of ethical hacking, explaining how these skills could be used for positive purposes, such as identifying and mitigating security vulnerabilities in computer systems. He encouraged them to explore their interests in a more constructive manner, perhaps by joining a cybersecurity club or participating in ethical hacking competitions. The sessions with Mr. Babatunde were a turning point for Adeola and Taupe. They learned valuable lessons about the power of technology and the importance of responsible online behavior. They realized that their actions had consequences, not just for themselves but for others as well. Gradually, Adeola and Taupe began to heal. They started to reconnect with their friends, their laughter once again filling the compound. They rediscovered their passion for learning, focusing on their studies and exploring other interests. Adeola, inspired by Mr. Babatunde's teachings, developed a keen interest in cybersecurity. She started reading extensively on the subject, devouring books and articles about cryptography, network security, and data privacy. She joined a cybersecurity club at school, where she honed her skills and learned from other passionate individuals. Taupe, initially hesitant, also found his footing. He discovered a passion for digital art and graphic design, using his newfound knowledge of technology to create stunning visual masterpieces. He started attending art workshops and even began to sell his digital artwork online. Their relationship with their mothers also improved. The open communication fostered by the crisis had strengthened their bond. Mrs. Adebayo and Mrs. Ojo, in turn, made an effort to understand the digital world better. They attended workshops on internet safety and learned about the latest online threats. They also made a conscious effort to spend more quality time with their children, engaging in meaningful conversations and fostering a deeper understanding of their interests. Life in the compound slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but things were different now. The carefree days of childhood were gone, replaced by a newfound awareness of the complexities of the digital world. Adeola and Tope had learned a valuable lesson, a lesson that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. The experience had a profound impact not only on Adeola and Tope but also on the entire compound. News of their ordeal spread quickly, raising awareness among the residents about the dangers of the internet. Mrs. Adebayo and Mrs. Ojo, now seasoned digital citizens, organized community workshops on internet safety, educating other parents about the potential risks and how to protect their children. Adeola and Tope, in turn, became advocates for online safety. They volunteered at local schools, conducting workshops for younger children, teaching them about the importance of online privacy and the dangers of sharing personal information online. They also created a small online community, where they shared tips and resources on internet safety with other young people. Their efforts were not unnoticed. The local community recognized their contribution and awarded them the Digital Citizens of the Year award. The award ceremony was a proud moment for the entire compound, a testament to their resilience, their growth, and their commitment to making the digital world a safer place for everyone. Years later, Adeola and Tope pursued careers in the technology field. Adeola became a renowned cybersecurity expert, working for a leading multinational corporation, while Tope established a successful digital art studio, using his creativity to inspire and entertain people around the world. They never forgot the lessons they learned, the challenges they faced, and the support they received from their families and their community. They carried those lessons with them, guiding their decisions and shaping their lives. The story of Adeola and Tope serves as a powerful reminder of the complexities of the digital age. It highlights the importance of open communication, parental guidance, and the need for education in navigating the ever-evolving online landscape. The internet, with its vast ocean of information and entertainment, offers incredible opportunities for learning and growth. But it also presents significant challenges: cyberbullying, online predators, misinformation, and the potential for misuse of technology. Parents play a crucial role in guiding their children through this complex terrain. They must foster open communication, create a safe and supportive environment, and actively engage in their children's online activities. They must teach them about the dangers of the digital world, equip them with the knowledge and skills to navigate it safely, and encourage them to use technology for positive and constructive purposes. The story of Adeola and Tope is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It is a story of learning, growth, and redemption. It is a story that reminds us that even in the face of adversity, we can overcome challenges, find our path, and use our experiences to make a positive impact on the world.